Hi, everyone. It's been a while, and today we're accompanied by people doing construction work in my neighborhood. So great. I wanted to talk about a book that I've just finished, as well as two older books, one I've mentioned before, but I wanted to explore the ideas of designers in social change and their perception of social change. So I'll, I guess, start with what became kind of the book of the spring, if you will, the fellowship, the untold story of Frank Lloyd Wright's fellowship program, which he set up, which was entirely a copy of a European fellowship program run by a Dutch architect, Weideveld. And Weideveld, if you translate it into English, means wide field and broad acres. And Broadacre City is the biggest social project that Frank Lloyd Wright had in mind. This way of building and laying out land and owning land in a way that was very socially new. And so he attempted to do this by buying up the land around where the school was based, the fellowship was based, running a series of farms. A number of his students ran those farms. It didn't work financially, but it became a kind of baseline for a lot of his ideas around social change. And that kind of led me where I kind of remembered some of the things that I was not quite taught, but came to the front in my first book, which was the story of Olivetti. Olivetti, the typewriter company. This is a really beautiful catalog of their early years. I found this online. It cost me a pretty penny. And it's really great if you're interested in the architecture of their projects. And so all of, whether that was residential buildings or their factories in Ivrea, abroad, in London even. They had in Berkeley Square, in the middle of Soho, they had an office to make typewriters and portable typewriters for the UK market. So, at the time, very popular. But I'll just read you a little extract from the book, which I think highlights what they were trying to do socially. It is a fundamental concept of the social services that the worker's period of productive activity is only a part of his complex life in the human community. The aim of the services is to help give that period of active labor the fullest possible meaning for the individual and the community. Production cannot be seen merely as a force that brings men and women to the machines and workbenches in the morning and releases them in the evening. In its highest terms, it is collective creation, and it's in its ever increasing importance for the economy. It carries weighty moral and civic responsibility for the community as a whole. So in that, there are concepts which Olivetti tried to instill in their workforce, which is, yeah, you're here to work, but you're also not just here to work. So they trained people up. They gave them training, not just for the work, but also for life. They gave them math classes, civic classes. They gave them access to a library. They gave everyone's wife and children healthcare support, and things that now feel incredibly progressive, but were done in the 40s and 50s and 20s and 30s even, because the company really started in 1908. And this leads me to my most recent, I've just finished this yesterday. This is called Designing Utopia, and John Hargrave and the Kibo-Kift Kindred. John Hargrave was an illustrator who worked in advertising predominantly throughout his career, but as a series of, I guess you could call them side hustles, but really this is beyond side hustle. He started something called the Kibo-Kift Kindred, and the Kibo-Kift Kindred was essentially weekend getaway activities for people who were interested in both, I guess, nature, but also identity. And this is between the two wars in England. So the most productive period for the Kibbutz kindred was between 20 and 24. And then from 24 onwards, he turned this into a political party. And he had a background in illustration, so all of everyone's uniforms and the look and feel of all these activities was, of course, very beautiful. And so he turned this into the Social Credit Party very quickly, also known as the Green Shirts. And they had very particular kinds of uniforms. So this is the imagery, or some of the imagery around the green shirts. The K there is the K for flag that they designed for the movement. And, you know, it's a lot of resemblances to a lot of very dodgy political parties in the future. But at the time, it was about kind of these incredible drawings around how wealth was being distributed and how unfair it was and how banking was robbing everyone of their time and their efforts and their money. And so he waged these kind of ensembles of political wars. They even had someone dress up as a machine, as a robot, to say, we demand the wages of the machine, which is, you know, pretty great. I think we could easily bring that back today. And in an attempt to grow this and to grow this beyond the UK, he went abroad. He went to Canada, Alberta. The province of Alberta was very interesting what he had to say. And in amongst working in advertising, running this Green Shirts Social Credit Party, he also developed a navigation system, because his fundamental love was for nature, but was also for seeing things from a particular point of view, and from a particular point of view to give it more power, as it were. So this is one of very, very early 1924 imageries of, you know, how he saw a person versus their environment. And this navigator was patented and was trialed in the defense sector in the UK during the Second World War. And then he heard nothing. And he found out when the Concorde in 1969 was showcased for the first time, he found out that they'd used his design. And so his later years were spent defending his patent, unsuccessfully, sadly. And then eventually he died in 1982 after years of going back to some of the more spiritualist concepts he was exploring with the Kibbutz. And I think that those three books kind of highlight how designers and artists and architects have a social mission in mind, but how that then translates into what they do, whether it's how they treat their collaborators, their employees, or the people who follow them, I think is very different and can be very different. Not all of this is necessarily entirely good, in the sense of there is exploitation. There is, of course, Olivetti is no longer the powerhouse it used to be. And the city of Ivrea, where I studied and I did my master's degree, suffered very much when the company went down, because they'd hired 90% of the entire region. And so when you're really tied to one employer like that, it can become very dangerous. And I know that people were very bitter. And so, you know, the Kibbutz obviously gave people a sort of leading light in a time that wasn't that great. And so I think that because of the pandemic and because of the upcoming Brexit in the UK, at least, we're bound to see people come out like that, people who are going to see themselves as social leaders. And they may come from the creative sector, they may come from architecture, they may come from design, but I think we'll see them slowly start to emerge with solutions and social solutions. And so history teaches us that we have to be careful about people like that. So I think I'll be looking out for them. I hope you've enjoyed, and I hope you're all well.